Good morning, everybody. Glad to be back this Saturday morning. My name is Ed Samuel. I'm a career coach with a firm called Samnova. We're based in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania, and we serve clients in the greater Philadelphia area and across the U.S. This morning we're going to talk about a topic that should be near and dear to everyone. It's about how to negotiate a job offer. And although I've helped many people negotiate job offers, I've also referred many of my clients over the years to employment attorneys when it comes to complicated contracts, job offers, and virtually everyone dealing with a severance agreement or some type of employment issue. One of those attorneys and a friend of mine that I've worked with exclusively in PA for quite some time now is joining us this morning. Her name is Robin Bond, and Robin is a principal and founder of the employment law firm Transition Strategies in Wayne, Pennsylvania. She represents really all aspects of workplace-related legal matters, including discrimination, wrongful termination claims, as well as negotiation of severance and new employment agreements. She's recognized as one of the nation's top employment attorneys. Robin's dynamic, entertaining speaker. I've seen her speak on a number of forums over the years now, and she's a legal contributor to major news networks and cable TV shows, and you may have seen her over the years. So Robin, hey, so glad to have you here this morning.
Thank you, Ed. This is going to be a fun conversation. We're going to make it that way.
Okay, well, that would be great. So, one question is, how long have you been an employment attorney? And I'm just curious, and I think the listeners might be curious, at what point did you decide, really to help people in employment versus maybe other kind of law that you studied?
Sure. Yeah, I've been an employment attorney for over 20 years, primarily representing executives in the negotiation of employment and severance agreements. I've represented well over 3,000 individuals at this time. So I have, quite a lot of muscle memory in the brain here in terms of what you can do, what you can't do, and what are some best ways to approach situations. But one of the better things that I can bring to the table is I started my career as an Air Force attorney and a prosecutor. And then I went on in-house in the healthcare arena, and I was an in-house attorney. So really what I do understand is how companies think. I've been on both sides of the table. And as we know, negotiation is the art of getting what you want in both business and life. And if you've been on both sides of the table, sometimes it really helps you facilitate getting to yes.
Part of a person landing a job and advancing their careers has to do with negotiating an employment agreement, negotiating a job offer, and trying to get it right. And I know a lot of people that I work with really don't use an attorney at all, but I wanted to kind of ask you, maybe we could start talking about what are some of the key things a person has to be thinking about when they start to negotiate a job offer?
The two most important things, I guess, are, look, I want an outcome. I want a positive outcome here from my negotiation, whatever that is. Usually it's money, perks, position. But the other thing I want is a good relationship. I want to build bridges. I don't want to burn them. So when you're starting to think about what do I want to achieve in this negotiation is, number one is my outcome, and number two is my relationship. I know how to do that. And for those people who say, I don't want an attorney or I don't think I need an attorney, well, that's why I wrote the book. I wrote the book kind of dumping my brain and my knowledge. And my book is called How to Negotiate a Killer Job Offer. So I can tell you, here's how to think through the negotiation process. Will you do this as well as an attorney who's trained to do it and has done it thousands of times just because you read the book one time? Well, no. But will you be better off that you've at least gotten that background? And I have to say, yes, you really will be.
I was just sitting there thinking that sometimes when I work with different clients, sometimes a client is going to get a job offer through a third-party recruiting firm, a headhunter, a retained search firm, and sometimes my clients are negotiating directly with somebody in HR, and maybe sometimes even the hiring manager or the owner of the company. Can you talk to me a little bit about how to approach those two things?
Right, absolutely. That's a great question. Okay, because when you're negotiating, people ask me, well, who should I negotiate with? The hiring manager, human resources, or the recruiter, or some combination of the above? And I say the answer to that is who has the money? Who has the power of the purse to give you what you're seeking? And I'm going to tell you, it's going to be the hiring manager. So when I help clients craft a response to a job offer, and we're going to go back, we're going to ask for a variety of things, I want to address this communication to the hiring manager. And if the company says, all right, dear candidate, just work it out with human resources, just say, sure, no problem. I am still going to write this ask, I call it an ask, to the hiring manager, and I'll copy human resources, or I'll copy human resources and the recruiter, just so everyone can be in the loop. But the important thing is I've chosen my words really, really carefully when making an ask, and I want that hiring manager to read my exact words. And you know, as a child, did you ever play this game where the children sit in a circle and I whisper something into your ear, then you whisper it into Ryan's ear, and then Ryan whispers it into Mary's ear? Okay. By the time it gets around the table, does that phrase have anything or any resemblance to what I originally said? No, right? Okay, it's totally different. This is the same thing when you start saying, well, I'll tell the recruiter, then the recruiter will tell HR, and then HR will tell the hiring manager. Well, all your beautifully crafted negotiation ask gets changed. Not because they're evil people, but just because this is what happens when people pass along a message.
So what I'm hearing is one major to do is to make sure it's crafted very well and worded well in writing.
Control your message. You want to control your message. And the way you control your message is you write it and you direct it where you want it to go, right? And that is the way you control, and people don't misunderstand you or they don't get the wrong idea or the wrong impression.
So somebody could craft that message, send it, then they can make the phone call an hour later saying, hey, I just wanted to let you know I sent you an email and I laid out everything that, is important to me, and I just wanted to give you a heads up to look for it.
Right. And how do I say that? I will say something like, I know you're busy and I didn't want to interrupt your day. So out of respect for your time, I sent you an email with my thoughts, and let's follow up in a phone call. Now, then the hiring manager says, wow, that is a respectful way to approach me. I appreciate that. I'll read it and I'll get back to you. Right. I avoid the element of surprise. And sometimes when you surprise someone and you get them at a bad moment and their 16-year-old son has just crashed the car for the third time and he's lost his insurance, and you hear that upset tone of voice in your hiring manager and you automatically think, oh, it's about me. He doesn't want to negotiate with me. It has nothing to do with you, right? But you think it does. So you torpedo your own ask unnecessarily. So.
Some people, when I work with some clients and I talk to different people, they work real hard. They could have been unemployed for a while, but they get to a point where, hey, they finally get the job offer and it seems okay, but then they're hesitant to negotiate because they think, if I try to negotiate, they're not going to want me anymore. Does that really happen?
Actually, yes, it does. I had a story about a woman who got a job offer. It was for a company in Atlanta, and she was really interested in going, but she knew how much it was going to take her to make that move. She was going to need a minimum of $80,000. They offer her $70,000. So, she just declined the offer because she looked at it, the offer as, well, I have to choose. Either I go for this amount of money or I don't. She looked at it as a choice instead of an opportunity to negotiate. It's an invitation to have a conversation. I'm making you an offer. We're allowed to negotiate. And every human resource professional that I've represented, and there have been very many of them have been my clients, will tell you everything is negotiable. You just have to have the confidence to speak up.
So really, by asking, you're not putting yourself at risk of them pulling the job offer simply because you asked. Okay.
Well, that is an excellent question. Under the law, when they make you an offer, you have to accept the offer as is. If you go back and say, I would love to work for you, but I need an extra $10,000, you're not accepting an offer. Under the law, you are making a counteroffer. And the consequence of a counteroffer is you kill the offer that's on the table. That's what the law says. So you're right, Ed. You don't have to worry about the employer pulling the offer off the table when you negotiate because you do it yourself.
So somebody, so if somebody used the words, I thank you for the offer. I'm very excited. I'm looking forward to joining your team, but I would like, clarity, or could you sharpen a pencil in this area, bring clarity to this point? And, oh, by the way, does it include the bonus or not? Because it's not stated. Okay. Could you please kind of give me the answers to these points? But you're kind of upfront telling them, hey, I thank you for the offer. I'd love to, I'm looking forward to joining your team. But they haven't signed it, dated, or sent it in. How do you view that?
Okay, so let's look at it this way. What you're saying is they've made you an offer and you want to go back and say, I need to talk about the terms of this offer. Right? You are under the terms of the strict interpretation of the law. You're making a counter offer.
So as soon as you use the word but? these are things I'm looking for?
Unless you accept the offer as is. But let's look at what really happens, right? Because it's important for listeners to know this is not something you should fear, right? You're definitely going to lose the deal if you don't negotiate. So look, don't be afraid. You don't lose deals because you negotiate, but you lose deals because of how you negotiate. It's the number one thing I tried to explain to people in my book is how you prepare and do a proactive negotiation process, which is you go back and you do one of three things. You say, as you exactly said, thank you. Looking forward to joining the team. I'll be a value-added contributor. Can't wait to hit the ground running. I only have, number one, a few questions, right? Sure, you have questions. You don't work there. That's all right. Or number two, a few points I'd like to clarify. Or number three, there's a few things we didn't get a chance to talk about. So in this email, I'll outline them, and out of respect for your time, we can follow up in a phone call. So you ask questions, you clarify, or you bring up a few points you didn't yet have a chance to talk about. Are you counteroffering? Yes. Is it going to cost you the deal? Well, I've only represented thousands of people, and it's never cost any one of them the deal. Could you be the first person that this happens to? Well, yeah, technically. Is it likely that you're going to be? No, because of how we do this. Okay, it's how you do it makes all the difference in the world. Why is this said? Okay, 3,000 people apply for a job. Right? They culled this down. They do phone interviews. They screen people. They do interviews. They do day-long interviews. Finally, they have picked you as the candidate who is going to remove this painful spear from their side, this big problem that they need solved. You're the one. Are they going to throw you out because you come back with some questions, some things you'd like to clarify, or some things that you didn't get a chance to talk about? Probably not. And if they do, maybe this is not the place you want to work anyway.
Interesting. But that's great to know. Another common thing that I see every now and again is the job offer comes in and it states a base salary. And then it says, this position will be bonus eligible, of which, details will be, worked out, upon, once you're on board and you're working with us, we'll worry about the details of the bonus structure. And then people will ask me, Ed, shouldn't this be in the job offer, the exact bonus percent? And yet there are some firms that truly do negotiate, work all that out after you start. Could you just kind of talk about that?
Right. The dreaded word is the discretionary bonus, right?
That's what I'm getting at.
So bonuses are discretionary. We can give you anywhere from 0 to, X percent, or, only if the board approves, or there's no parameters around it. Yeah. I try to negotiate this around a couple points. Number one, what would the target be if I was fully successful? Would the target be 20% of my base pay? 40% of my base pay? Do I have an opportunity to go up to a maximum of 150% of my base pay? Let's put some parameters around this in the language. And in the language too, let's say, you're eligible for a target bonus of 40% of base pay, contingent upon achievement of goals and objectives that will be established by the CEO or the board. Because I like to anchor it to something objective. When you get subjective criteria and discretion, it's really hard to make a legal argument in the future that you have an entitlement to something. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, let's try and anchor it to something objective.
So you would always err on going in and asking to actually add it to the offer language versus excluding it as something we'll work on after you get on board.
Yeah. Well, what you work on after you come on board is what are the goals and the objectives. That's something that you don't necessarily expect them to have that prepared for you before you start, but you do want to know what the target's going to be before you start if you can.
Another question, Robin, is that some people will get a job offer and it might be just one-page letter. Other people get a job offer and instead of a one-page, it's about 6 pages, and it starts to feel like an offer letter and a contract mixed into one. And other people will get a job offer, which might be 1 page with an addendum contract that might be 15 pages. Can you just explain the difference between the two and what should somebody be, or is there a difference between the two?
Well, I just did one yesterday, and it's like a 2-page job offer, which pretty much outlines the financial terms more than anything else. And then that job offer letter says something like, this is going to be followed up with our standard employment agreement and our restrictive covenant agreement. Restrictive covenant meaning confidentiality of information. Don't compete with us. Don't solicit our clients. Don't raid our employees after you leave. Things like this. Or who owns the inventions. These are important documents to get and review as part of deciding whether or not you're going to accept an offer, because you may say, well, the financial terms look good, but then you get a 2-year non-compete and it's overly broad and you think, well, gosh, there's not even any severance protection in this non-compete or in my offer letter. So what happens to me if I can't work for 2 years? I have no severance and I'm, really stuck. I guess I'll buy a bed and breakfast in Maine. I know, but not everybody wants to do that, right? So those are important considerations, Ed.
How often are you able to take a look at some really hard non-compete language in a job offer and actually go push back and say, hey, can we soften this a bit or make it a bit more, restrictive to the benefit of the person accepting the offer versus the other way around?
I do that often. Yeah, I definitely do that often. And, in a non-compete, it's very state law specific. And there's, each state treats their non-competes differently. So the first thing I look at is what's the governing law here. And the governing law is found in the document itself. That will tell you what governing law. And then I know, what I'm working with. But all non-competes need to be reasonable in terms of scope, meaning what industry or what products can you not work in? Duration, how long is reasonable? Did you get good consideration to support the covenant? Because all contracts have to be supported by good consideration, or they're called illusory and not enforceable. And finally, is it only as restrictive as necessary to protect a legitimate business interest of an employer? So there are like a million ways. We could just talk about non-competes all day. But to suffice it to say, I always look at the scope of a non-compete because I don't want it to be overly broad. I try to make it the narrowest little pinpoint area of the country or industry or product, so you have a big area left where you can still work. The duration, I want it to be as short as possible. And certainly if there is severance, I want to ask for severance that's commensurate with the duration of the non-compete, because I feel that's good consideration. That is not the law. The law does not require any severance ever. But let's ask for that because it makes sense, right? It's quid pro quo.
Gotcha. Other than salary and bonus and the non-compete, are there some other key areas that you counsel people on to think about when they're negotiating?
Oh, gosh, yeah. In my book, I say, as part of my proactive negotiation process, make me a wish list. When you get that offer, you tell me what would make you happy. If I could make you really happy with this offer, what would it look like? What would your base pay be? What would your bonus target be? Let's talk about your long-term incentives. Would you have options, restrictive share units, performance shares? What proportion of each? Would you be able to work from home? Would you have a commuting allowance? All the things that might make you happy. You want to reload or you don't want to reload. Do you want the reload to be for 2 years? Do you want the repayment to be, 1/12 forgiveness for each month worked? All the different things. So we make a list of what everybody should be looking for. But of course, the most important component of all comp packages is the base pay, because that's the thing that you can take to the bank every week, right? Absolutely. And everything else cues off of that. The bonus cues off of that, your 401k, pension plans, or whatever. So that's the most important thing, really.
If you think about, your 3,000 clients that you've done this for, what do you think the two most common mistakes are that are made or that you hear about or that you see that you try to stop, or in some cases, I guess it would be too late if they come to you after they've already accepted it?
Well, let's see. I think being prepared, because people have to be confident when you negotiate. You have to do so with some confidence, not arrogance or cockiness, but confidence. And there's a big difference. How do you become confident in the position that you are putting forth? You prepare. And I devote an entire chapter of the book to preparing. And where do you get information on salary ranges and regional norms and industry norms? I give you all these resources in the book so you can prepare and then you can be confident, right? Because that's a thing a lot of people are fearful. And they're fearful because they aren't prepared and they aren't confident. And I really try to help people get over that and develop the confidence. The other thing is you have to be prepared to walk away from any deal. The best deals you ever get are the ones that you're willing to walk away from, right? If you're totally desperate, if it comes across that you're desperate, then then the other side will key into that, and you will not be as successful in your negotiations as you otherwise could be.
Gotcha. I know every once in a while, people will, negotiate, accept an agreement, and the next thing you know, they go to resign, and their current employer says, "Hey, no, we're going to counter. We're going to try to keep you here." Can you talk a little bit about counter offers and what to do or not to do?
Yes. Oh, I just had the most fun experience with a guy who got that. He had an offer to, he was doing well where he was, but he had an offer to go somewhere else, and he was going to go, and then the place where he worked said, "Oh, no, we'll match everything and you can stay." And then the other place said, "No, we'll do better." And then the other place made the unfortunate mistake of presenting my client with a restrictive covenant as part of the package. And he said, whoa, wait, I don't want a restrictive covenant. I don't have one where I am. And that's where everything broke down. But that was like a lot of fun. I mean, if you can leverage one deal against the other, but you have to be very careful while doing that. You have to go to the people that you're working with and say words like this, like, "I wasn't looking for this. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity. It, came out of the blue. I can't turn it down," and then if you're going to accept, the other guys might say, stay. Now, you have to judge the people that you're working with, because sometimes you can stay and you'll be just fine. All right. Other times, the mere fact that you would have considered leaving creates an uneasy feeling in your boss that maybe you're not loyal, or maybe the next time something good comes, you'll just leave anyway. So this is a situational thing. You have to judge on a case-by-case basis. But be aware, if you stay, you have to play this exactly right.
Gotcha. Yeah. You really have to think it through.
You should have some counsel on that.
And think about the long-term implications of the people involved. Robin, is there a certain salary that makes sense for someone to hire you, or even if it's just to review an offer letter? Is there a certain level of people you work with where it starts to make sense, and is there some type of compensation cutoff where maybe it doesn't make so much sense?
Well, could be, how important is it to you? Because honestly, even small increases in pay can turn into six figures pretty darn quickly. And for the most part, I don't draw any lines about where people's compensation levels have to be. Like, I have somebody now that I'm representing who's making like $37 an hour. I have people that I'm working with that are close to seven figures. So, there's a huge range here. The thing is, most of my work with clients is on the shorter term. It's looking, because we're just talking about job offers here. We're not talking about my boss hates me or severance, which are different. That's a
different time to bring you back.
Right. But job offers are relatively, short in time. It might be 2 hours of time. It might be 4 hours of time. It could be, longer, but they're relatively short range projects. So you have to think about, well, what's my potential payback by investing, a couple $100 or a couple $1,000 with, an attorney like Robin? Its potential payback could be, so significant to me that I'll look back and say, wow, that was money well spent.
Well, I wish we had more time. If someone wanted to reach out to you, do you usually do an initial phone discussion just to get a feel before they, quote, hire you?
Yes, I talk to people for free on the phone. Maybe like a 10-minute consult, just like, what's the nature of your situation? Well, I'm expecting an offer from a pharma company, and I'm going to need review. Here's my concerns, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, then I can give you a sense of what it might take, but there are no guarantees because I can only control, my 50% of the negotiation. I don't know how reasonable or unreasonable the other side will be. But I encourage people to reach out to me on my website, transition-strategies.com. That's transition-strategies.com. And I have an client intake form, and, reach out to me that way or call my office at 610-640-5373.
Oh, beautiful. Well, I can't thank you enough. And again, Robin has a book that I've given out to countless clients, How to Negotiate a Killer Job Offer. And it's easy to remember, Robin Bond, B-O-N-D, Esquire. And I guess you can order this through Amazon?
Yes, you certainly can. You can get it in the Kindle version, or you can get it in a paperback. And I made it just the right size to fit easily into a backpack or a purse. So you can do it in an easy read. You can also get it on Barnes & Noble.
Beautiful. Well, thanks so much for coming in this Saturday morning. And I hope to have you back again soon to talk about one or two other topics.
All right. Thank you so much.
Well, we're just about out of time. So please join us again on our next Optimize Your Career program. That'll be Saturday, July 6th. Our topic will be the importance of the first 7 seconds you meet someone, especially during an interview. We'll be joined by an image consultant to learn what to do and not to do when it comes to first impressions. This is Ed Samuel, career coach with Sam Nova. Our website is www.samnovainc.com, SAMNOVAINC.com. Feel free to call our main number at 610-274-8214 and make it a great weekend. So long for now, and God bless.